They left the dying cyborg behind, but one human refused to walk away: the abandoned sentinel. The silence of Outpost Helios 9 was broken only by the distant hum of failing life support systems. Nestled at the edge of contested space, this once bustling way station had been emptied during the evacuation. All personnel ordered to retreat as the Voidborn Armada approached. All personnel except one. Riker Novak moved through the dimly lit corridors, his boots echoing against metal floors. He wasn't military, not officially. The patch on his worn jacket identified him as station maintenance, but his talents extended far beyond fixing air scrubbers and patching hull breaches. 37 years old with weathered features and eyes that had seen too much conflict, Riker had chosen to stay behind when everyone else fled. Final systems check complete, he muttered to himself, adjusting the portable scanner in his hand. Reactor stable for another 72 hours. More than enough time. The station groaned around him, metal contracting in the cold of space. Riker had disabled the evacuation protocols that would have scuttled Helios 9, buying himself time to salvage what he could before departing. The Earthside commanders would call it insubordination. He called it common sense. Too many resources would be lost otherwise. As he rounded the corner toward the medical bay, his scanner picked up an anomalous reading. Something was drawing power, minimal, but detectable. Riker frowned. The evac team had been thorough in shutting down all non-essential systems. "That's not right," he whispered, following the signal. The doors to the advanced medical wing were sealed, but Riker's maintenance override granted him access. Inside, emergency lighting cast everything in a dull red glow. Most of the equipment had been stripped or powered down, but at the far end of the room, a single stasis pod hummed quietly. Riker approached cautiously, wiping condensation from the viewing panel. Well, I'll be damned. Inside lay what appeared to be a humanoid figure, but Riker immediately recognized the metallic sheen of synthetic skin and the intricate network of circuits visible through damaged sections. It was a cyborg. No, not just any cyborg. The markings on what remained of its armor identified it as Vexis, one of the elite Sentinel units that had been at the forefront of the battle when the Voidborn first attacked. The pod's diagnostics displayed critical damage across multiple systems. The cyborg had been placed in stasis, but no medical procedures had been initiated. They had simply left it here, abandoned in the evacuation. "They didn't even try to fix you," Riker said, studying the readouts. "Just dumped you here to power down with the station." Riker knew the military protocols. Resources were prioritized during evacuation. Human lives first, then critical technology. Damaged combat units, even ones as advanced as the Sentinels, were considered acceptable losses if they couldn't be quickly repaired. Something tightened in Riker's chest as he looked at the broken form. The Sentinels weren't simple machines. They were hybrids, volunteers who had sacrificed their humanity to become the ultimate defenders. Their artificial components could be replaced, but at their core remained a human consciousness. "They left you to die," he said quietly. "That's not right." The rational part of Riker's mind told him to move on. The cyborg was badly damaged, possibly beyond repair. His shuttle had limited space for salvage, and a half-dead Sentinel wasn't on any priority list. But Riker had never been particularly good at following protocols. He touched the pod controls, initiating a more detailed diagnostic. The cyborg's central neural core was intact, but systems throughout its body were failing. Without intervention, complete shutdown was inevitable. "Let's see what we're working with here," he muttered, connecting his personal device to the medical console. The data transfer revealed the Sentinel's designation: Vexis 7, formerly Commander Lyanna Vex of the United Earth Defense Force. Decorated officer, volunteer for the Sentinel program after sustaining critical injuries in the Battle of Proxima Centauri. The mission logs showed Vexis had led the defense of Helios sector during the recent Voidborn incursion, taking catastrophic damage while covering the civilian evacuation. And then they'd left her behind. Riker's jaw tightened. He was no doctor, certainly no cyberneticist, but he understood systems. Everything was just machinery at its core, organic or synthetic. His years of keeping aging outposts functional had taught him that most things could be fixed with enough ingenuity and determination. "All right, Commander," he said, beginning the process of disengaging the stasis protocols. "Let's get you out of there." The pod hissed as it opened, cold vapor spilling onto the floor. Up close, the damage was even more extensive than Riker had anticipated. Vex's right arm was completely severed below the elbow, circuitry exposed and scorched. The synthetic skin across her torso was burned away, revealing the complex mesh of technology and organic tissue beneath. Her legs appeared intact but unresponsive, neural connections likely severed. The cyborg's eyes remained closed, face unnaturally still. Only the faint pulsing of lights along her neural pathways indicated any activity at all. Riker activated his comm unit. "Maintenance log, Helios 9, Day 3 post-evacuation. I've located a damaged Sentinel unit, designation Vexus 7. Initiating recovery and repair." He paused, looking down at the broken form. "No one gets left behind," he added. "Not while I'm here." The medical base systems were limited without power, but Riker managed to connect Vexus to a portable diagnostic array. Most of her autonomous functions were offline. The basic systems keeping her human components alive were operating on emergency power. Her cognitive functions appeared to be in standby, a self-preservation protocol to conserve energy. "First things first," Riker muttered. "Let's get you stable, then worry about mobility." He began assembling the tools and parts he would need. The station's cyber-medical supplies had been mostly evacuated, but Riker had always been good at improvising. A coolant pump from the environmental systems could substitute for the damaged circulation unit. Communication array components could be repurposed to restore neural pathways. Hours passed as Riker worked, his hand steady despite the challenge. Sweat beaded on his forehead as he carefully spliced connections and rerouted power systems. The station's remaining emergency lighting flickered occasionally, a reminder that time was running short. "Come on," he whispered, connecting the final circuit in the makeshift power module he'd constructed. "Just need to get your core systems stable enough for transport." For a moment, nothing happened. Then a subtle vibration ran through the cyborg's frame. The lights along her neural pathways brightened, and her damaged systems began realigning themselves. Suddenly, Vex's eyes snapped open, artificial irises with an amber glow focusing on Riker's face. "Threat assessment in progress," she said, voice mechanical and flat. "Identifying." Riker remained still, knowing better than to make sudden movements around a combat unit coming online. "Easy there, Commander. You're on Helios 9. Station's been evacuated. I'm Riker Novak. Maintenance." The cyborg's eyes flickered, processing. Evacuation. Void-borne incursion. The civilian transports. "Got away safely," Riker assured her, "thanks to you and your team." Vexus attempted to move, then seemed to register the extent of her damage. Systems compromised. Combat efficiency at 12%. Unable to comply with mobility commands. "Yeah, you took quite a beating," Riker said. "They put you in stasis but didn't have time to repair you before the evacuation order came through." The cyborg was silent for a moment, processing this information. Logical decision. Damaged units are resource inefficient during tactical withdrawal. Riker frowned. "Maybe so, but I'm not leaving you here." "Illogical," Vexus stated. "I am combat ineffective and will require extensive repairs. Your shuttle has limited capacity." "How do you know about my shuttle?" "Station surveillance accessed during system reboot. You have remained on station against evacuation orders to salvage materials." Riker smiled slightly. "Smart. But you're not just materials. You're a person." "Incorrect. I am a Sentinel unit. My humanity was surrendered in service to the defense of Earth and her colonies." "That's military propaganda," Riker said, continuing his work on her systems. "You're still in there, Commander Vex. The human parts are what make the Sentinel program work in the first place. Vexis didn't respond immediately, her artificial eyes tracking Riker's movements as he worked. "Your actions are inefficient," she finally said. "Resources allocated to my repair could be better utilized." "Maybe," Riker shrugged, "but I've never been much for efficiency. More of a right thing to do kind of guy." "The right thing is subjective." "Not to me," Riker replied, connecting another bypass circuit. "Not leaving someone behind to die alone. That's pretty objective in my book." As the makeshift repairs continued, Vexis's systems gradually stabilized. Her neural network strengthened, and with it, subtle changes appeared in her demeanor. The rigid, mechanical responses softened almost imperceptibly. "Why did you stay?" she asked after a long silence. Riker didn't look up from his work. On the station, someone had to salvage what could be saved. "No," Vexis clarified. "Why did you stay when you found me?" "Military protocol classifies damaged Sentinel units as—" "I know what the protocols say," Riker interrupted. "But I've never been much for protocols. You fought to protect everyone on this station. Seems wrong to just leave you here because you got damaged doing your job." The cyborg's damaged systems hummed as she processed this. "Your reasoning is non-standard." Riker smiled. "I'll take that as a compliment." As the station's systems continued their slow decline around them, Riker worked tirelessly to stabilize Vexis enough for transport. The damaged Sentinel watched him, her artificial intelligence adapting, learning, and perhaps, though she would never admit it, beginning to understand something about humanity that her combat programming had never accounted for. Sparks of hope. The distant rumble of the station's failing systems grew more frequent as Riker continued his work. Helios 9's automated warnings echoed through the corridors, reminders that their time was running short. Outside the medical bay viewport, the stars remained cold and indifferent, offering no assistance to the human and the damaged cyborg he refused to abandon. Primary neural pathways reconnected, Riker announced, wiping grime from his forehead with the back of his hand. "How's that feeling?" Vexis's amber eyes flickered, internal diagnostics running. Sensory input restored to upper torso. Arms remain non-functional. Legs at 7% capacity. Progress. Riker nodded, reaching for another tool. "We don't need you combat ready, just stable enough for the trip." The cyborg's metallic features remained impassive, but something had changed in her voice, less synthetic, more nuanced. "Your shuttle's life support is calibrated for a single occupant. Adding my power requirements will reduce your oxygen reserves by 37%. Riker grinned. "Been poking around my shuttle systems, have you?" "Standard threat assessment protocol." "I'm a threat now, am I?" Vexis paused. "Negative. Analysis indicates your actions are beneficial, though irrational." "Irrational is my specialty," Riker quipped, connecting a bypass circuit to her damaged arm. Sparks flared momentarily, causing him to jerk back. "Damn it. You should utilize insulated tools when working with my power core," Vexis observed. "Thanks for the advice," Riker muttered, shaking his singed hand. Little late, though. The station lights dimmed briefly, then stabilized at a lower output. Another system failing. "Reactor stability decreasing," Vexis reported. "Estimated time to critical failure, 14 hours, 27 minutes. Riker nodded grimly. "Then we'd better speed this up." He moved to a storage unit and retrieved a portable generator. It wasn't designed for cybernetic integration, but Riker had never been one to let design limitations stop him. With practiced precision, he began modifying the power outputs. "This will function as an external power source until we can get you somewhere with proper facilities," he explained. "Won't be pretty, but it'll keep your core systems running." Vexis watched him work, her artificial intelligence processing his movements, analyzing his techniques. "You have knowledge beyond standard maintenance protocols." Spent some time with engineering corps before transferring to civilian operations, Riker explained. "Pick up things here and there. When you work the outer colonies, You learned to improvise. Why did you leave military service? Riker's hand stilled momentarily. Let's just say I had disagreements with command about what constituted acceptable losses. Understanding seemed to register in Vex's expression, the subtle shift of synthetic muscles that mimicked human emotion. Like me. Yeah. Riker nodded. Like you. As he worked to integrate the portable generator with her systems, Vex's internal diagnostics continued running. Data scrolled across her vision, casualty reports, mission parameters, the final moments before her systems had failed during the battle. They were following protocol, she said suddenly. Leaving me was tactically sound. Riker didn't look up from his work. Doesn't make it right. Right and wrong are subjective evaluations. Military operations function on objective analysis. That's the problem. Riker replied, connecting another circuit. The moment we start treating people like numbers on a cost-benefit analysis, we lose something important. I am not people, Vexus stated. I am a combat unit. Riker finally looked up, meeting her artificial gaze. You volunteered for the Sentinel program after Proxima Centauri. Your file says you were Commander Lyanna Vex before that. 27 decorated missions. Saved your entire squadron during the asteroid belt ambush. Vexes remained silent. Those choices, the one to join the military, to volunteer as a sentinel, to sacrifice yourself covering the evacuation, those weren't made by a machine. They were made by a person. The cyborg systems hummed as she processed this. Memory files of pre-integration existence are stored separately from operational data. They are distant, but they're still there, Riker insisted, returning to his work. The human part of you is what makes the decisions that matter. Another tremor ran through the station, stronger this time. Warning lights flashed red. Structural integrity compromised in Section C, Vexes reported. You should accelerate your evacuation timeline. Not without you, Riker said firmly, connecting the final power coupling. Try the arm now. Vexus's damaged right arm twitched, fingers curling slightly. Not full functionality, but movement where there had been none before. Partial motor control restored, she confirmed. Efficiency at 23%. Better than zero, Riker smiled. Let's see about getting you mobile. He moved to her legs, examining the damage more closely. The neural connections had been severed, but the mechanical components were largely intact. If he could bridge the gap between her central processors and the lower limb actuators, she might be able to walk, with support. As he worked, Vexus continued accessing station systems, monitoring the deteriorating conditions. Voidborne scout vessels detected at system edge, she reported suddenly. Riker's head snapped up. How many? 3. Current trajectory indicates reconnaissance pattern. Main fleet likely following. How long? Approximately 7 hours until they reach scanner range of this station. Riker swore under his breath. That complicates things. You should depart immediately, Vexus stated. My presence reduces your chances of successful evasion by. Not happening. Riker cut her off. We're leaving together or not at all. That is illogical. So people keep telling me. He connected another set of wires, bridging a damaged neural pathway. Try your right leg now. Vexus attempted movement. Her leg responded with a jerky motion, not smooth but functional. Limited mobility restored. Efficiency at 31% and rising as systems recalibrate. Good enough. Riker decided. Time to go. He gathered the remaining tools and supplies, stuffing them into a duffel bag. The portable generator would need to be secured to Vexus's frame somehow. An inelegant solution, but necessary for now. Can you sit up? He asked. With visible effort, Vexus engaged her core systems, synthetic muscles straining against damage. Slowly, she raised herself to a sitting position on the medical bed. Structural integrity holding, she reported. Balance systems compromised but functional. Riker moved to support her, placing an arm around her shoulders. The cybernetic body was lighter than he expected. advanced alloys designed for combat efficiency. Okay, on three, we're going to stand, he instructed. 1, 2, 3. Together they rose, Vexis leaning heavily against him. Her damaged legs trembled with the effort, but held. External support required for mobility, she stated. I am reducing your efficiency. I'll manage, Riker assured her, securing the portable generator to her back with makeshift straps. Shuttle's not far. Their progress through the station corridors was slow and unsteady. Vexis's damaged systems struggled to maintain balance, and Riker bore most of her weight. Every few meters they would pause, allowing her systems to recalibrate. Your heart rate is elevated, she observed during one such pause. You are experiencing strain. Just getting my exercise for the day, Riker quipped, breathing heavily. The station shuddered again, more violently this time. Lights flickered and died in sections of the corridor ahead. Reactor containment failing, Vexis reported. Revised estimate. Critical failure in 4 hours, 12 minutes. Guess they didn't shut it down properly during evac, Riker muttered, more motivation to hurry. They continued their laborious journey toward the docking bay. As they passed through the operations center, Vexis paused, her attention drawn to the tactical displays still functioning on emergency power. The Voidborn scout vessels have altered course, she observed. They are accelerating toward this position. Riker checked the display. They must have detected the reactor instability, probably hoping to salvage intelligence before the place blows. Your shuttle will be detected upon departure. One problem at a time, Riker said, urging them forward. First, let's get off this dying station. When they finally reached the docking bay, Riker's shuttle waited, a small utilitarian craft designed for maintenance operations rather than combat or speed. It wasn't pretty, but it was sturdy, and more importantly, it was their only option. Home sweet home, Riker said, helping Vexis toward the entry hatch. The cyborg scanned the vessel, designated as Persistence, curious name for a maintenance shuttle. Riker smiled. Seemed fitting at the time. Inside, the shuttle was cramped but efficiently organized. Riker helped Vexis into the co-pilot seat, then began securing her systems to the shuttle's power supply, replacing the temporary generator. This will keep your core systems stable, he explained. The rest will have to wait until we reach somewhere with better facilities. Vexis observed his work, her artificial intelligence analyzing and learning from his techniques. Where do you intend to go? Military outposts will confiscate me for decommissioning. Riker's expression hardened. Not taking you back to the military. I know some people in the outer colonies, independent techs who used to work on the Sentinel program before it went fully military. They might be able to help. Accessing Sentinel units without authorization is a violation of Military Code 27B, Vexis pointed out. Add it to my list, Riker replied, moving to the pilot's seat and beginning the launch sequence. Besides, they abandoned you. Far as I'm concerned, that voids their claim. The shuttle's systems hummed to life, displays illuminating the small cockpit. Outside, the station continued its slow deterioration, alarms blaring through increasingly unstable systems. Riker's hands moved confidently across the controls, the pre-flight checks completed with practiced efficiency. Ready? Vexis's amber eyes surveyed the docking bay, then shifted to study Riker's determined profile. Something was changing in her processing, subtle shifts in prioritization that her programming couldn't entirely account for. Why are you doing this? She asked one final time. The statistical probability of successfully evading both the station's destruction and voidborn detection is below 30%. Riker smiled, not looking away from the controls. I've never been much for statistics. Sometimes you do things because they're right, not because they're likely to succeed. As the docking clamps released and the shuttle began to pull away from the dying station, Vexis's systems registered an unusual subroutine activation, something that had been dormant since her integration into the Sentinel program. It took her milliseconds to identify it. Gratitude. Thank you, she said, the words feeling unfamiliar to her synthetic vocal processors. Riker glanced at her, surprise briefly crossing his features before settling into a genuine smile. "You're welcome, Commander." The shuttle accelerated away from Helios 9, its small engines pushing to maximum capacity. Behind them, the station's lights flickered one final time before sections began to go dark. Ahead lay uncertainty. Voidborn scouts, military patrols, and the vast expanse of space. But for the first time since waking in that abandoned medical bay, Vexus's predictive algorithms calculated something new: possibility. Not merely survival, but perhaps something more. A future neither her human origin nor her mechanical enhancements had prepared her to imagine. As the stars stretched before them, the small shuttle carried more than a resourceful human and a damaged cyborg. It carried a spark of something the cold calculations of war had forgotten: hope.